Mr. Icom was not comfortable with Amora staying with them. He has discovered that his son Chinedu is beginning to like her. He was afraid because he didn't know any relative of Amora, that is why he didn't happy with her. Also he knew Amora was a good singer, but he had this erroneous belief that he could be a witch or some spirit. This is because when he wanted to give birth to Chinedu in the past, he requested a child from the gods, because of the barrenness of his wife, and the chief priest had warned him not to marry Chinedu to a spirit being. After some days there's an important event that is about to happen at the palace. The king himself wants to celebrate his birthday and he needed the best musician that can sing for him to be impressed. So he gave the announcement across the villages. When Amora heard this, she was so happy because she has been looking for such an opportunity for so long. Immediately she had started preparing for inspiring songs that can make the king happy. She inquired from Chinedu concerning the details of the king. She composed 3 songs for the king and she rehearsed part of it with Chinedu. When Mr. Icom heard this, he knew this was a great opportunity for him to dine with the king, but his son Chinedu wasn't a singer. He thought of what to do. He planned with his son Chinedu to pretend to be a singer so that he can win whatever prizes that comes from the king. He told Chinedu to start preparation immediately. He hired a singer for him to train him. Chinedu was not pleased with this. He told his father that Amora can sing better, that they should allow her, but Mr. Icom refused. He lamented that over his dead body will a witch collect prizes from the king. Amora overheard this discussion and was not really happy about it. She didn't know why Mr. Icom hated her so much. She went to her room and started crying. When the celebration is at near, Amora had made up her mind already that she wouldn't do any preparation again, because she knew Mr. Icom won't allow him to sing on that day. Chinedu also was not pleased with this move, as they were forcing him to sing. Chinedu told his father that he would sing part of Amora's composed song on that day. His father was happy to hear that. On the day of the event, everywhere was already filled up in the palace. The place is full of celebration. The king was also present, who was the main celebrant, was already anticipating singers from various villages. The drummers were drumming and everything is going on smoothly. Amora was also present there, but she sat in the midst of people. Chinedu was among the singers that would sing. He was so sad to be there, but he had something shocking in mind that he hasn't told anyone. There were about 15 singers present there. The first singer started singing. Everyone was happy, but the king were not moved at all. Other singers also sang and tried their best to make king happy, but it was all wasted efforts. The remaining singers tried to crack a joke so that the king would laugh, but it wasn't working. As Chinedu stepped up to the front of the palace, the crowd fell silent. His heart raced, not because of nerves, but because of the decision he had already made. The bright afternoon sun streamed into the grand courtyard, illuminating the crowd gathered for the king's birthday celebration. Drums had fallen quiet, and the air was thick with anticipation. The king, a stoic figure draped in royal robes, sat at the head of the assembly, his expression indifferent after the many lackluster performances. Chinedu took a deep breath and said, "I'm not a singer." His voice cut through the silence, causing a ripple of confusion to spread through the audience. He continued, "But there is someone here today who will inspire us all with her voice." Murmurs swept through the crowd as Chinedu called Amora out of the congregation. Slowly, she rose, tears already brimming in her eyes, unsure if she was dreaming. As she walked toward the stage, heads turned, whispers followed her, and those who recognized her began to cheer softly. Even the king leaned forward in his seat, intrigued by this sudden turn of events. Mr. Icom, standing stiffly among the guests, felt his heart sink with a mix of fury and dread. He watched helplessly as his son defied him in front of the entire village, but the weight of the crowd's attention left him silent. Amora stood before the crowd, the moment stretching before her like an endless horizon. She had never imagined this, being called to sing before the king. As she looked at Chinedu, their eyes met, and she saw the quiet strength and belief he had in her. That was all the encouragement she needed. But instead of singing the songs she had carefully composed for the king, Amora sang from her heart. A song filled with the sorrow, pain, and longing she had carried for years. Her voice, pure and clear, filled the courtyard as she sang of her tragic life, of the suffering she had endured, of the innocence that was stolen from her, and of the question that had plagued her for so long: what is my offense? Her voice rose with emotion as she sang, "Is it a crime to have a dream? To have a talent. To want to be free. Tears streamed down her face as she continued, if this world will not let me sing, then I will hang my dreams upon the stars, where no one can reach them. The entire crowd was stunned. The raw emotion in her voice touched every soul present. People began to weep openly, moved by the depth of her suffering and the beauty of her voice. The drummers stopped playing, their hands resting on their drums as they, too, listened in silence. Even the king, who had been unmoved by every other performer, felt tears welling in his eyes. He had never heard a song so filled with pain and hope all at once. When Amora finished, the courtyard was still. Not a single sound could be heard except the soft breeze that carried the last echoes of her song into the distance. Tears fell freely from the king's eyes, and in that moment, he rose from his seat and beckoned Amora forward. You, he said softly, his voice thick with emotion, you have moved my heart in a way no one else has. Come forward, child. Amora, trembling, approached the king. As she stood before him, unsure of what to say, the king gently lifted her chin, his eyes searching hers. Tell me, who are you? What has brought you such sorrow? Before Amora could speak, a voice from the crowd broke the silence. She is my daughter. Neko's voice trembled with emotion as she pushed her way through the crowd, her eyes filled with tears. Amora's heart stopped at the sound of her mother's voice. She turned to see Neko, standing just a few feet away, looking older and wearier than she remembered. The years of separation seemed to melt away in an instant. Neko rushed forward, tears streaming down her face. Amora, my sweet Amora. I'm so sorry. I was so blind, so lost in my own world that I didn't see the pain you were in. Forgive me, my daughter. Amora stood frozen, unsure of how to respond. Her heart, so long hardened by pain, began to soften. For years, she had longed for her mother's love, and here she was, standing before her, asking for forgiveness. Before she could say a word, the king spoke again. It seems that fate has brought this moment to us. Amora, your voice is a gift, and I will not let it go unnoticed. You have not only touched my heart but the hearts of everyone here today. You will sing for my court, and your name will be known across the land. The crowd erupted in applause, but Amora's gaze remained fixed on her mother. She walked slowly toward Neko, tears blurring her vision. When she reached her, they embraced tightly, both crying for the years they had lost. I forgive you, mother, Amora whispered. But I need to find my own way now. Neko nodded, still holding her daughter. I know. And I will be with you every step of the way from now on. Chinidu watched from a distance, his heart swelling with pride. He had always believed in Amora, and now the whole world would see what he had seen all along. As he glanced at his father, Mr. Icom stood with his head bowed, silent. He had lost this battle, but in doing so, his eyes had been opened to the truth. Amora, the girl who had been abandoned and cast aside, was now a beacon of hope, a symbol of resilience. Her journey had only just begun, but now, she was no longer alone. She had her voice, her mother, and the love of a friend who had always believed in her. And in that moment, as the sun set over the palace, Amora knew that no matter how hard her journey had been, her dream was finally within reach. She would sing, not just for the king, but for herself, for the little girl who had once been lost in the forest, but had found her way through the power of her own voice.